Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today. Yes, I'm doing a review for my very own bedroom because snowstorms. Anyway, I've had the opportunity to play Sifu all the way through. I did it over on my PC, right here next to me. It took me about 10 hours to complete. I played it through the Epic Game Store app, so just keep that one in mind. This game is coming out on February 6th for early access, and for the rest of us, on February 8th. It's at the price of $40. You can also find it on your PlayStation 5. This is from the team that previously brought us Absolver, a hand-to-hand combat game that eventually turned into a very unique PvP experience, but never quite found its legs. Now its latest effort is Sifu, which is a martial arts game about revenge, and it's not one for the faint of heart, as Sifu will mercilessly beat you into the ground. It's a game about beating death itself, and it's one of my favorite indies in the last number of years. It's as if Shenmue and Sekiro met and had a baby. And as someone who's not a fan of Sekiro, I gotta say, Sifu is my kind of game. So let's get it all kick-started here with the story, and if you're new, consider subscribing for more reviews. The game begins with an unknown group of characters murdering the head of a martial arts school. You're caught in the crossfire, so guess what? You also die. You can play as a man or a woman, but you're dead. Doesn't even matter. But that's where Sifu's defining mechanic shines through, as you rise once more and begin training to exact your revenge on those who have wronged you. What's really cool about this game is you're a nameless character, so to say, so you function as a ghost from the past, haunting the 5 killers who decided to wrong you. And subtlety is the name of the game. The story never directly tells you anything, but rather lets the player piece things together, an element that you likely have seen if you've played Absolver before. But really the most direct form of storytelling is this conspiracy theorist board right here. So as you explore these levels, you're going to find different collectibles, pickups, keys, and you're going to see all these lines drawn to these objects. But what this effectively does is builds the world in a really unique, organic way. It's all told to you environmentally, and then you start to bring the puzzle pieces together and you create this universe that is actually quite interesting. It's a futuristic Chinese setting, and I actually quite like that because it reminds me a bit of Jade Empire, one of my favorite BioWare games. So overall, really dug the setting, but the story is all about subtlety. It's not going to try to tell you this compelling narrative, and honestly, it shouldn't do that because it's about mastering the game, mastering its mechanics, and it's a gameplay first experience. But don't go in expecting absolutely no story here. There is a beginning, middle, and end for sure. My favorite part about the storytelling for this game is how its seamless HUD and excellent presentation mesh together to organically create cinematic moments by merely existing as is. This is also a nod to the sound design, which is a superstar, as every thud of you rearranging the organs of the enemies you are fighting has tremendous impact. Combine that with an excellent score, and Sifu is constantly epic, just again by merely existing. Check out this clip right here.
Found the target.
To me, those battles are stories being told, and the way they happen is going to be different for a variety of players, but the way that the game is presenting itself with the music, the way that enemies are gradually surrounding you, it's incredible because it's not trying to tell a story there, but the way the mechanics mesh is a story. Each target that you're going to be taking down has their own sprawling level that you must kick ass through in a near flawless manner, or yeah, you're going to face the consequences. All in all, it's not a narrative that's going to knock your socks off, and it's not trying to be one, but rather a conduit that's going to carry you through these very unique levels. So let's not dilly-dally anymore. I know a lot of you want to know about the gameplay experience here. I said it's not for the faint of heart. That is for sure certain here. Sekiro, probably the biggest inspiration for Sifu. No difficulty levels, so don't go in expecting the accessibility options that we have been arguing about for quite some time now. Sifu is a directed experience that's designed to break you over and over and over again until you learn. It is a game about mastery, but to conquer a challenge before you will always require a good teacher, and I can't quite say that Sifu is always that. the game doesn't really convey visual cues enough to allow the player to properly react. This isn't always about timing, but it's a catch-22 with the HUD, because as I said, the presentation, the immersion is strong here. It's badass when you're bobbing and weaving out of harm's way and feeling like you can counter-strike at any moment and you're this untouchable god. However, when you get hit and can't figure out why, you may end up wanting to bang your head into a wall as you die over and over and over again. The camera can also be a little bit troublesome as enemies surround you and attack you without any mercy. They don't care about patterns. They don't care about taking turns to attack like a Batman Arkham game. They're here to kill you, and they're exactly going to try to do that, enhancing the game's challenge. But when you get caught against a wall and suddenly the camera's fighting with you, it can be quite frustrating, because again, this is where Sifu stumbles a little bit in its visual cues, in its camera positioning. You dying because of things that are really out of your control or things that the game isn't conveying to you properly can be frustrating, and I definitely experienced that here. However, this game did manage to overcome the odds and really deliver something special. There is no denying that once you learn Sifu inside and out, it is nothing short of one of the most satisfying games you can play right now. Every death increases your age. This becomes a risk because with every subsequent death, that counter will rise, thus making following deaths costly. So you can beat up tougher enemies to lower this counter, so I can go from 4 years being added to my age on the next death to 3, but they're both deadly and few and far between. This also makes it where as you die more and more, and as your age increases per decade, you'll receive more damage and your health bar will shrink more. So it demands mastery out of you. It's not like you get older and you're more of a refined martial artist. It's, yeah, you still hit as hard, but when you get hit, you're gonna feel it. So enemies that weren't as threatening early on can really frustrate you, because if they get one crack in on you, there goes half your health bar, and you're like, man, I knew what I had to do there. It's a game that consistently challenges you, but its mechanics are so unique and well refined, I can't help but respect them even when I was getting really annoyed. Exploring each of the game's 5 levels will net you keys, codes, and key cards that can enable you to skip tougher parts of the level. Eventually, you'll find yourself clearing out an easier path, and this is where the age mechanic shines again. So by default, you start off the game at age 20 on level 1, right? You go through that, and in my first experience, I think I was 70 coming out of there. And once you pass age 70 and you die again, it's over. You lose your skills, you lose any shrine bonuses you acquired, and you got to start from the beginning of that level again. It's quite punishing. But once you finally muscle through, you get some of those unlockables, you start to learn the game a little bit better, you fight through some of the second level, you clear out a little bit of the path through trial and error and learning again, becoming a master of this game. You're like, okay, now I gotta pass through this second level here where I can shortcut some of those tougher fights that I really mustered through. So I'm gonna go back to level 1, replay all of that, and in my experience, I got out at age 23, which was an immense improvement. We're talking a 50-year difference now. So entering level 2, I have a lot more lives to play with. So you master it, you finally muster through it, and the cycle repeats again and again. So it's not just playing one level, completing it, and moving on to the next. You're gonna be going back and forth between a lot of Sifu's levels, because to earn yourself more lives, if you will, in this arcadey sense, you need to master older levels to then earn the right to really truly compete and have that trial and error process that you start the game with. It's unique because it's not just about mastery, which we've seen in, say, a FromSoft game. It's unique because it's also now about efficiency. How efficient is your life pool? Can you kind of squeak by if you're 50 years old on the 3rd stage? Yeah, I guess. But that's not the best process. So you have to be efficient. Go back to level 2. Really work hard to get out of there and be age 30 minimum. So then once you're in level 3, it's like, now I'm really in a good spot here. It's, again, such a satisfying experience when you really crawl through these levels and get it right. The mechanics of this game will be familiar to those who play Sekiro. However, its martial arts roots help separate it enough, I feel. So you'll have a light and heavy attack, your heavy attack doing more stun damage to what is effectively the enemy's posture bar. I said, yes, this is very much like Sekiro. As you damage that posture bar, you'll be able to do takedowns, and takedowns are a key component of this game, as each takedown will restore health. So aggression is sort of the answer, but not really, because it's a game about patience and environmental awareness as you navigate giant groups of enemies and try to roll over the environments to really create space and take them out one by one. Because again, they don't care that it's a video game and they want to be fair. They are trying to kill you, and so it can really put on the pressure. But there's also dodging, parrying, and then there's avoiding, which is one of the most smooth feeling mechanics in a game when you get it right. Plus weapons you can find, throwing weapons, blunt weapons that can damage the enemy's posture bar, as well as bladed weapons that specifically attack the health bar. There's also focus, which is literally martial arts VATS. You'll target a body part and you'll hit their leg and sweep them out, removing them from the fight. You'll punch them in the eye and blind them for a little bit so you can get a couple of hits in. It kicks ass. And as you continue to kick ass without taking damage, you'll be rewarded with a multiplier, which we'll get into in just a matter of moments. But all these mechanics are simplistic, right? A light attack, a heavy attack, the weapon pickups. But as you earn some skills through this multiplier, through getting XP, you'll unlock skills temporarily. This is again where the age mechanic shines, because as you die and you go back to these levels and you do them right, you'll get more XP. And as you spend more on the same skills, you'll eventually permanently unlock them. It's not going to be a game where you're going to have your entire skill list, so you have to be wise on what you pick. And it's a game that still, even with these skills, I can't say they made that much of a difference. I do have some qualms with the progression, because it would have been more rewarding and spoken to the mastery process if there were truly super extremely useful skills baked in there, that as you got better in the game, you also saw that reflected in the skill tree. But most times it was always coming down to the core mechanics, like dodging, parrying, avoiding at the right times. So I really spoke highly of avoiding. This feels so good. By holding L1 and using the left stick, you're gonna just bob and weave out of the way. So if you move left or right, it's roughly the same. It's about timing. It's not about, oh, he's punching with his right fist, let me use my analog stick and go to the right. It doesn't work like that. As long as you're going right or left, that will avoid the same. However, it's the low attacks and the high attacks where you have to specifically go up or down on the left analog stick. And when you start to know the patterns of enemies and you're leaping over a sweeping bow staff and then ducking under a blade and then dodging a couple of quick strikes, it is like these martial art movies coming to life before your very eyes. And it couldn't help but bring me back to Shenmue with the 100-man battle, I think it is, where you're just going through enemies, carving them up, fighting a ton at once. It's such a nostalgic experience in some ways, because it's like a whole game based off of what was one of my favorite moments in video games. What I also love, though, is while I do have some issues with the occasional balancing problems, that weapons aren't really OP. When you find a weapon, whether it be blunt, blade, or a thrown, they're assets that you can use creatively, but some enemies will block them, grab them, and take them from you. They're also aware of that, so if there's a weapon you got kicked out of your hands, they'll start to go for it on the ground and give themselves the advantage. I also mentioned shrines. So as you go through the level, you'll find these green shrines planted about, and this is what makes pathing really important as you go for that ideal run from start to finish and really get that low age counter. You also want to make sure you hit these shrines, because certain shortcuts will avoid important shrines. But if you want to go through that extra battle and risk the age gap, then you can do so, and you'll be more upgraded for eventually the final fight. Now, don't get it twisted. I want to make this very clear. When you die, you don't start from the beginning of the game, just the beginning of that level. So it is punishing, but more so just demanding you to master each of the levels one by one, because at the end of every level is a boss fight. Each boss fight has 2 phases. Be prepared. They're tough, but they are excellently designed, because as you learn them and you have to fight each of them differently, going at different paces, dodging in different ways, it feels incredible to have your FU moment as you finally take down a boss that's been beating you for hours. I know a lot of what I'm saying here speaks to the FromSoft DNA, and it's honestly been a while since I've played a FromSoft game, but the last time I played a FromSoft game, I can't say I had an immense challenge with it. Watch That's a Comment that ages poorly if I play Elden Ring and it ends up being very difficult. And again, I have to make this clear, I wasn't a big fan of Sekiro. I didn't click with that game, and I thought that was a game way up my alley. This worked for me, and I think it's because of the music, the sound design, the martial arts, the presentation, and the overall feeling where deflecting felt good in Sekiro, but for this game, when you're just bobbing and weaving, there's nothing like it. So that brings us to our final segment, sound. If there's one thing that these hand-to-hand combat games get right, Judgment, Yakuza, Sleeping Dogs, Shenmue, and especially Sifu, it's when your fist connects, you want to feel that. You really want to feel that. Or when they're blocking and it's dudding, you also want to feel like that's not the true impact I'm looking for. There's an excellent audio feedback experience here, but also the music. It feels like it's pulled from these epic martial arts movies I grew up with, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, and I just love the homage they pay to them so much. It just feels so clear that they're very inspired by this culture, and it really shines brightly. So overall, the sound experience was great, but when you got an enemy on their back and you're just like pop, 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 rearranging their organs, oh my god, it sounds amazing. It actually really feels like some punches are being landed. Go figure. So that brings us to our verdict. Should you buy, wait for a sale, or just pass on Sifu? Buy this game. If you are ready for the challenge, and again, no, there's no difficulty options, there's no getting out of the way of this, there doesn't seem to be any accessibility options that I dug for, so be prepared for that conversation to happen, which will be interesting, because we're talking about an indie game company now, and not even a AAA company, but I respect the vision, I love what they went for here. Yeah, I do have some issues with balancing and the way they teach the player. I did find it a little bit frustrating, but I can't deny Sifu was awesome. It's a nice compact experience, clocking in at 10 hours. Once I finished it though, you could still go back, replay these levels, continue to master it. It's just a fun game to play where I could see the obsession taking over a lot of people, where you just want to have that perfect run. This is going to be a perfect runner's wet dream, because I mean, the idea of someone going through this whole game without getting touched is like, I can't even imagine it, but someone's going to do it, and it's going to kick ass when that happens, because it's such a satisfying game. I can't wait to see the playthroughs of this. It's a fun game to play, to watch, and overall a great experience, and one of the best indie games I've played in a long while. I know there's been a lot of hype about Sifu, and justifiably so. They have delivered. I think this is a much better game than Absolver. It's replayable in the right ways. I feel like they learned a lot from their last efforts here. So shout out to Sifu, shout out to Slow Clap. They did an excellent job here, and I can't wait to see more from them. And with that, what do you think about Sifu? Fire away in the comments down below. Let me know what you're thinking of this game. If you have any questions, I'll try my best to get back to you. But other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.